from an objective point of view, how many billions of living beings are just on this property? I mean, there's about 1 billion flies, you know. What to speak of every insect, every ant, blade of grass, bird, plant. There's millions of living beings just on this property. What to speak of in the creation of God? Innumerable living beings. Sarvagataha, which means they're in every corner of the universe, in fire, in water, in air, they live everywhere, even in fire. So, if one of those innumerable living beings takes interest in Krishna, how much Krishna takes interest in him? Out of billions who want to ignore and compete, blaspheme, and offend the Supreme Lord, if one living being comes, one fortunate soul comes, and says, "My dear Lord Krishna, I surrender to you. I want to serve you." How rare is that? The proportion between the offending jivas and the surrendering jivas, the proportion between them is astronomical. So devotee, even the most neophyte devotee, is very, very dear to the Lord. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said one time that a neophyte devotee ringing a bell in the temple is millions of times more valuable than opening hundreds and hundreds of hospitals. Or another time, our godbrother, I'm forgetting his name, he was preaching in Japan. Anyway, he was preaching in Japan, and Japan's very, very tough place to preach. They have no interest in Krishna Bhakti. They have interest in eating, sleeping, mating, defending, bus. So he became frustrated, packed up the temple and left. Prabhupada said that even if one devotee doing business who chants around in his office, it has immense effect on the whole country. Devotee is so powerful. And so rare also. So here in this purport is explained that a devotee may sometimes face impediments. One given by the Lord himself. Prabhupada gave the example of Jai Vijay. But the impediment Jai Vijay experienced was due to what? Vaishnava aparad. Because they offended 4 Kumaras. 4 Kumaras are eternally liberated living beings that travel all over the universe. And when they were denied entry into the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha Loka, there is a whole scene at the gates of Vaikuntha. And they were cursed by the 4 Kumaras. Now you take birth in the material world. Big curse. Lord Vishnu appeared on the scene, and he told Jai Vijay that if my devotee is offended, I can't tolerate. In fact, if my own arm offends a devotee, I will cut off my own arm. Lord is so dear. The devotees are so dear to the Lord. So Vaishnava aparad is a major obstacle to our progress in spiritual life. In the morning we recite Dasavidha Namaparad. All of those Namaparads can be mitigated, can be removed by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, except Saruninda. Because Saruninda is very, very serious offense. Other ones you chant Hare Krishna in due course of time, Namaparada Yuktanam Namaneva Harantegam Avishvanti Prayuktani Tanyavarti Karanicha. We're offenders to the holy name, but if we continue to chant the holy name, we become free from offense. That is the merciful nature of the holy name. Bhumauskalita padanam bhumireva balambam tvayi jata paradhanam tvameva sharanam prabhu. Devotee prays, my dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offend you. Just like a person walking on the ground, he may trip on the ground, but what shelter does he have but the ground? If he wants to continue to walk, he has to take shelter of the ground. So devotee prays in the same way, I make many, many offenses to you, but accepting me as your devotee, you please forgive that. So if we offend Lord's devotee, we have to go to that devotee. You can't just blow it off. Okay, I'll just chant Hare Krishna, finished. You have to go to that devotee with a mood of contrite, of humility and regret, that I'm fallen, I'm such a fool, I'm useless, I'm full of bad qualities, I've offended you. You please forgive me. Even if that devotee doesn't feel like you ever made any offense. If you feel like you offended the devotee, you should go and beg forgiveness. If you didn't do anything that can be considered an offense, but the devotee thinks he becomes offended even though you didn't do anything, you should go to that devotee and beg for forgiveness. In every circumstance. If there's some friction between devotees, we should beg for forgiveness. Because devotees need each other. Just like in Vrindavan during the winter time, you see the monkeys all huddled together. Like 20, 30 monkeys all huddled together trying to stay warm. So there's a creature called porcupine also. Sahi, I think called Sahi in Hindi. So they do the same thing to stay warm. They need each other to stay warm, but this pointed quill is there. So when they huddle together, they stay warm, and they give each other trouble also. By this quill, they poke each other. So Vaishnava Sangha is something like that. We need each other, but sometimes we give trouble to each other. Not meaning to, inadvertently, we give trouble to each other. So in that circumstance, one should beg forgiveness from the devotee. And for that we bow down to devotees. Mancha kalpatubhyascha. Why? Because devotees are so rare. Because they're very dear to the Lord. So Vaishnava aparad is very, very severe offense. Sadhu ninda. Number one offense to the holy name. If one commits this offense, then his devotion is like the waning moon. Moon becomes full and smaller, disappears. So if we make offense to a devotee, it affects our devotional life. And there's many nice examples. Srivas Thakur was 100% pure devotee of the Lord, Narad Muni in Krishna Leela. And one demoniac person, some rascal named Gopal Chapala, Jai Shri Radha Madhav. One rascal, Gopal Chapala, who was a Shakta, a worshipper of Devi, desired to insult Srivas Thakur. So he put on his doorstep wine and vermilion, rakta chandan, rice, plantain lean, all the items that are used to worship the goddess Durga. So when Srivas Thakur came out and saw these items, he said, yes, I have been worshipping goddess Durga. But his associates could understand that he had no interest. They called for a sweeper, take this thing out of here, clean it with cow dung and Ganga Jal. Clean this. Who has made this great offense to Srivas Thakur? Srivas Thakur was so dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, everyone in Srivas Thakur's home is dear to me. Even Srivas Thakur's dog is dear to me. So in due course of time, Gopal Chapala, his whole body became infested with leprosy, which is a very dangerous, contagious disease. And the limbs of his body began eating away. The insects, the flies would come, lay eggs, which would hatch. The maggots would eat his flesh. He was suffering greatly. And he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, you please forgive me for this offense. I understand I've offended your devotee. Mahaprabhu said, you burn in hell for millions of birth times. You've offended my devotee, Srivas Thakur. And if you want mitigation from that offense, you have to go to Srivas Thakur to become free from the offense. Also, we remember a story of Garuda and Shobhari Muni. Garuda is a great Vaishnava, but what is his diet? He likes to eat fish, but he's great Vaishnava. That doesn't mean that we should follow his example. But Shobhari Muni was taking compassion on the fish. He was meditating in the bottom of Jamuna, and he was having a relationship with the fish. having compassion. So he cursed Garuda to deny Garuda his own foodstuff, to deny him access, out of great pride. Who is Shaubhari Muni, insignificant Muni, to curse Garuda? So because of his because of his great pride in cursing Garuda and denying him food, he became attached to the material world. And in his meditation, he opened his eyes and in the water, he's seeing the fish engaged in sexual affairs, and his mind becomes disturbed by that, by fish mating with each other. And he developed need, now I have to become married. He came out of the water, and his body was all wrinkled, like your hands become wrinkled if you're washing dishes for some time. They become all wrinkled. Your body becomes wrinkled and if it's in contact with water for some. So he came out very ugly, and he wanted to marry, but nobody wanted to marry him. So by his mystic power, he became very, very beautiful, and 100 ladies all argued, let me marry him, let me marry. So he married 100 ladies, still unsatisfied. Konteya patijanihi, no. Kamarupena konteya dushparena analena cha. That lust, the desire to satisfy oneself, is never satisfied any more than fire can be extinguished by putting fuel on it. This happened in America in the early 1900s. The whole city of Chicago, half the city burned down. One lady was milking her cow, and the cow was having a bad day, kicked over a kerosene lantern. The lantern caught the straw on fire, the straw caught the barn on fire, the barn caught the neighborhood on fire, the neighborhood caught the whole city on fire. Half the city of Chicago burned down from one flame. So kama rupena konteya dushpena, lust burns like fire. This is Krishna's example. A fire will automatically burn out in due course of time if you don't supply fuel to it. But the more fuel you supply to it, the hotter it burns. So this example is befitting for Shaubhari Muni. Even with 100 wives, he was still unsatisfied. Give me more, give me more. Give me. And how did it happen? How did he fall from such an exalted position of meditating in the bottom of Jamuna River? Because he offended devotee. Because he offended Vaishnava. Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni offended, he not only offended, he tried to kill Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish was doing a vrata. He had to observe this vrata, Ekadashi fast. And time came to break the fast, and Durvasa Muni shows up on the scene with his 10,000 disciples. Now feed me. But first, I'll go take bath. So the time arrived to break the fast, and without breaking the fast at that particular time, then they don't get the result of the fast. He'd been fasting for 1 year, imagine. And now it's time to break it after such an austerity without getting the proper observance of vrata, then there's no benefit. So he asked his ministers, Mahamantri, what to do. They said, you take a little water. So he took some water. But when Durvasa Muni came back, by his mystic power, he could understand the king has drank water. He has eaten before me. Has he eaten? Not really. He took some water. Such a small thing. But Durvasa Muni, because he's an angsha of Lord Shiva, very easily pleased, very easily angered. So because of his pride, thinking, I'm a great Muni, a mystic, a yogi, and who is this materialistic king, absorbed in family life, money, wives, property, treasury, soldiers, palace, such a materialistic person, and I am the great Durvasa Muni. He cursed him. He pulled hair from his head, threw it on the ground, and a huge demon appeared to kill Ambarish Maharaj. But because Ambarish Maharaj is a great devotee, what happened? Konteya pratijanihi name bhakti pranashyati. Krishna can never tolerate offense to his devotee. And he sent his Sudarshan Chakra, dispatched the demon, and began to chase Durvasa Muni all over the universe, all the way to Vaikuntha, such a powerful Muni. He entered Vaikuntha, threw himself at the feet of Lord Vishnu. Said, please forgive me. Please, this Sudarshan Chakra is burning me. Please forgive me. Get rid of the Sudarshan Chakra. Lord Vishnu said, I cannot. Because you've offended my devotee. Then he says interesting thing. He says that my devotee controls me. Aham bhakta paradino na swatantra ivadvaja. I'm swatantra, I'm under the control of my devotee. And if you want freedom from the reactions of your offense, you have to go and beg forgiveness from Ambarish Maharaj. Again, this is the power of a Vaishnava. Sachi Mata, the wife of Jagannath Mishra, mother of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya was in Shiva Sangha giving benediction, giving out Krishna Prema Pradayate. He said, but I will not give mercy, I will not give prema to Sachi Mata, his own mother. And they said, why? She's mother of the universe, and she won't get prema? Why? Because she has offended Advaitacharya. Advaitacharya was teaching Shankararanya, Lord Chaitanya's brother, and he became sannyasi. Mother Sachi became very concerned, said, you're not Advaita, you are Dvaita, you're two-faced. Very small, slanting comment. But Lord Chaitanya took it that she has offended Advaitacharya, and I will not give her prema because of her offense. So Advaitacharya in kirtan became ecstatic and fainted. Sachimata took dust from his feet, put it on her head, said, now I will give you prema. Because she approached devotee. Another nice story from Chaitanya Leela with, not Damodar Pandit, Devananda Pandit. Devananda Pandit was Naishtika Brahmachari, lived very, very simple sattvic life, and was very expert in speaking Srimad-Bhagavatam. So Shivas Pandit was there in the assembly hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam and appreciating that every syllable of Srimad-Bhagavatam is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We say, Idam Bhagavatam Nama Purana Brahma Samitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi. That this Bhagavatam is Brahma Samitam. It is Krishna himself. When we pick up this book, it's exactly the same as picking up deity. And when we give the book, when we give Bhagavatam, when we give Bhagavad-gita, you're putting Radha Madhava in their hand. This is an incarnation of the Lord in paper and ink. Because every word is Krishna. Every syllable is Krishna. So Shiva Thakur is hearing the Bhagavatam recitation of Devananda Pandit, and he became ecstatic. He fell to the ground, he was crying and carrying on, became unconscious. Devananda Pandit took his disciples, picked up Shiva Thakur and threw him out. Devananda Pandit didn't say a word. And because of his complicity, because he agreed with what was happening, he became an offender to Shiva's Pandit. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heavily chastised him because he was also giving impersonal interpretation to Srimad Bhagavatam, unable to receive the mercy of the Lord. And can't read my own writing here. Anyway, we should be, the opposite of offending devotees is to develop loving relationships. If we understand that by offending devotees, we lose mercy of the Lord, then the opposite is true. If we develop loving relationships with devotees, we please the Lord. Bhagavatam explains that if we worship the deity with opulence and surrender, all types of paraphernalia, bowing down, singing kirtan, worshipping, surrendering, but we don't have relationship with the devotee, that worship is like taking ghee and pouring it on ashes. A waste of ghee. For sacrifice, the ghee has to go into the fire to be beneficial. So if we worship the deity very nicely but offend devotees or don't have established relationships with devotees, that worship is like pouring ghee onto ashes. And Lord also says that food stuff, we prepare very delicious food stuff for Radha Madhav with ghee, all types of delicious fruits and flowers and nuts and milk products for his satisfaction. But he said that those same things that are offered to the mouths of my devotees pleases me more. Lord is more pleased when his devotees are pleased. So we can understand that by pleasing Lord's devotees, we get the positive result, not the negative result from offending devotees. So Vaishnava Puran, the huge obstacle in our spiritual life. And Prabhupada mentions here, second thing, that just as Jai Vijay, we're sent to the material world by desire of the Lord, by the desire of the Lord, some obstacle may come in devotee's life also. But devotee accepts even that as mercy. Some obstacle comes, okay, we fold our hands and we accept, because Krishna is supreme controller, but he's supremely merciful also. So even that obstacle that comes to our life can be accepted as positive in the ultimate issue. I'll give you an example in my own life. My father purchased a very large wooden house. It was his birthday. And everyone's sitting downstairs, big family gathering, happy birthday, happy birthday. The house caught on fire. And the whole upstairs portion of the house burned down. My room was right next to the fire. Everything I owned was destroyed. What was I left with? Clothes on my back. So I'm standing in the front lawn of the house, seeing these huge flames leaping out of the windows. The house is burning down. I'm thinking, my life is definitely changing right now. Next day I was there, I was throwing stuff out, everything burned, throwing it out, very angry. But this apparently inauspicious obstacle in my life turned out to be greatest blessing. Because the family was moved into a temporary residence. I thought, I'm 18 years old, I'm going to go out on my own. So I went and was living with some people, and they took me to the temple, Hare Krishna temple. Had the house not burned down, I would have been there completely absorbed and quickly beating a path to hell, quickly going to hell. But that was by the mercy of the Lord erased. At the time I thought, such a horrible thing to happen, such an obstacle, such a disaster in my life. Everything I owned burned to ashes. But had that not happened, I never would have met devotees. Because the people I'm living with said, let's go Hare Krishna temple. Let's go. I said, what is Hare Krishna? They said, oh, they're like yogis. I said, so what? Yoga shmoga. Who cares? No, but they serve this very delicious, free vegetarian food, very tasty food, free. That is it. Let's go. So had this apparent obstacle not come to my life, I never would have met the devotees. Everything was destined, everything was orchestrated by the Lord. This rascal attached to material life, sinful rascal, beating his way to hell, let's remove all that. This is mercy. At the time we don't see it as mercy. Everything is mercy. From the eyes of pure devotee, every obstacle is actually mercy. Because that obstacle forces us to take shelter of the Lord. So we accept anything given by the Lord as mercy. So even Jai Vijay, being cursed by the Lord, they got the opportunity to fight with him. Because this is also mercy. To be born in the material world as a demon and fight with the Lord is mercy. Prabhupada said that Krishna is fighting with these demons to keep the body fit. Joking. to keep the body fit. Lord's fighting with Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Dantavakra, Ravana, to keep the body fit. This is Leela. How the Lord no one wants to fight with the Lord. No one wants to become his enemy. So by his arrangement, someone becomes his enemy to fight with him. Prabhupada gives an example like a king, very wealthy man, may hire a wrestler to wrestle with. Because no one wants to wrestle with a king, he pays someone, okay, you come wrestle with me. You fight with me. So devotee, Jai Vijay, they're devotees. They become demons to give pleasure to the Lord. So by pleasing the Lord, they're also liberated. And ultimately they return back to their post by mercy of the Lord. So everything in Krishna consciousness is mercy. We should see it in that way. Even in Srila Prabhupada's life, one astrologer told him that his destiny was to be more than Ambani, more than Birla, more than Tata, become huge, successful industrialists. But Krishna took everything away. And there was a time in his life, Prabhupada was just wearing dhoti with holes in it, no proper food, and spending money meant for buying food to print his magazine. I don't think he didn't call it Bhagavad Darshan, but to print his magazine. And going from, someone said tea stall to tea stall, but then Prabhupada said no. I read this. Sometimes devotees think he was in the tea stalls. No, he was going to aristocratic families and businesses with his magazine, trying to convince them to the value of their own culture, the value of Krishna consciousness. Struggling in this way, spending money meant for eating to buy paper to print his magazine. So determined. When he was staying at our Chipiwada Mandir, that has now gloriously become an ISKCON temple. Leelastan, Srila Prabhupada's Leelastan, where he lived and had his first books printed and distributed. And he lived there in very, very, very poor state, not even eating properly, sacrificing everything to preach Krishna consciousness. So in even the life of pure devotee, we see there's trouble coming and trouble going. Pandavas, how much did Pandavas suffer? House of lack, they poisoned Bhima, Hidimba, tried to eat them alive, took their kingdom was removed, cheating. By cheating, they lost their whole kingdom. Draupadi was insulted. We shouldn't think that because I become a devotee, everything will be smooth. Hello? Everything will be smooth. Krishna's own mother, Devaki, Vasudeva, mother and father, locked in the prison. Yashoda went blind, crying for Krishna. So we shouldn't think everything is Haribol and Gulab Jamans. This is the material world. But those obstacles push us towards Krishna. Harishe Dandan, Srila Prabhupada was discussing this with his beloved godbrother, Pujapad Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. He said, what about this verse? Harishe Taddanam Shanyai. That by Krishna, the first installment of Krishna's mercy takes everything away and gives himself in return. So this was shown in the life of Prabhupada, life of the Pandavas, Mother Yashoda, Devaki, Vasudeva. So when some obstacle comes in our life, we should see this is Krishna. And what to speak of Kunti? She prayed, Vipada Santuta Shashvat Tattva Tattva Jagat Guru Bhavato Darshana Yatsad Apunar Bhavadarshana. Said, let these calamities come one after another. Because when I see these calamities, I see you. And when I see you, Apunar Bhavadarshana. I don't see any more birth and death. The trick is, the responsibility of the devotee is to see this is Krishna. When some calamity comes, see this is Krishna. Some obstacle comes, this is Krishna, forcing me to be a better devotee, forcing me to surrender. And that, if we see Krishna, In every circumstance of life, apana bhavadarsanam, no more birth and death. So Kunti Maharani prayed in that way. Probably we shouldn't pray in that way. Please give more trouble. Because you don't have to pray for trouble. Trouble will come. Guaranteed. Just as mercy comes, trouble, no one goes to the mandir, the masjid, the gurudwara, church, synagogue, and prays to God, give me trouble. Fold their head, please Lord, be kind to me today. Wreck my car. Let my house burn down. I hope I get some incurable, deadly disease. I hope I lose my job. Please, Lord, show me this mercy today. Does anyone pray? Nobody prays. But is it also true that disaster comes to everyone's life? Everyone's life, sometime, to some degree or other, disaster comes. So in the same way, prosperity comes without asking for it. Everybody comes to the mandir and begs mercy. Oh, please do this, and there's a big list. Do this for me, I want a home, I want a baby, a husband, a wife, a promotion, money, freedom from disease, freedom from anxiety, please bless me. Or I watched one man in our Punjabi Bagh temple, he had 10 rupiah in his hand. So he was offering to Radha Radhika Raman like this. And he was offering Krishna Balaram, Jagannath Swami, then he took like this. Then he put in the hundi. So he's folding his hand and saying, oh Bhagwan, I've offered you from the generosity of my heart 10 rupiah. Now you please give me 10 crore. People come to the Lord to ask some material. We don't need to ask for material blessing. Tasyaiva heto prayate to kovido. Nalabhyati yad brahmatam uparyada. Talabhyati dukkha vadanyata sukam. Kalena sarvatra gabira rangasa. One should endeavor for that topmost thing that's not available by wandering from Patalok to Satyalok. What is that? Ananya Bhakti. As far as material prosperity is concerned, that comes automatically, just as in due course of time we get distress. You don't have to pray for distress, it will come. You don't have to pray for prosperity, it will also come. Everything comes by the will of the Lord, and devotee sees them equally. Narayana parasarvena kuchashtina bibhyati swarga bhavarga narakeshu apitulyartha darshina. This prayer was offered when Parvati cursed, what was his name? Chitraketu, thank you. When Parvati cursed Chitraketu to be born as a demon, and Chitraketu said, okay, no problem. He wasn't disturbed because he's Narayana Para, he's devotee. Nakutasya Bibhiti, he's not fearful, he doesn't fear anything. Swarga Pavarga Narakeshu, he send me to heaven, send me to hell. Apitulyartha darshana, he sees them the same. This is devotee. So in our own life, as our own life unfolds, many things may come. Prosperity may come, many blessings will come, many obstacles will also come, because this is the material world. Lord says in Bhagavad-gita, Dvandva mohena bhara, Icha dvesha samutena, Dvandva mohena bharata. Icha and dvesha, desire and hate. We desire all the good, supposed good things in life. We want to avoid all the bad things in life. But we're obliged, by taking birth in the material world, to accept both things. We have to, because we're born here. If you pick up a coin, it has one side heads, one side tails. By picking up the coin, you take both sides. Icha and dvesha, desire and hate, good and bad, heat and cold, black and white, man and woman, happiness and distress, fear and infamy, fear and fearlessness, fame and infamy, disease and health. It's a world of duality. Because we accept one thing, we have to accept the other. So in life, we can't expect that everything's going to be good. All prosperity will come to us, all health will come to us, all happiness will come to us, happy relationships. It's not like that. This is the material world. So if we see Krishna behind that, and see Bhadra, Abhadra, is all Manu Dharma. Why do we think something is good? Because it pleases my senses, makes me happy in the material world. And it's abhadra if it is the opposite. If it drains my bank account, if it makes me unhappy, then this is all very inauspicious. Chaitanya-Charitamrta says this is manodharma, all in our mind. The reality is Krishna is the Supreme Controller, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchirananda Vigraha. He is Ishvara Parama. And whatever comes to us is given by Him. So what is the meaning to obstacle? It's given by Him. It's an opportunity to be more sincere, more enthusiastic in Krishna Bhakti. And face the obstacle head on and increase our bhakti. And accept it as Krishna's mercy. Because this is the nature of the material world. It's a world of duality. And that will never change. We've come here thinking, I will be happy, I will enjoy. Ishwaroham aham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. I'm perfect, powerful, happy, I'm the controller. And then when we find out differently, when we taste the reality of material life, we become disturbed. So when the reality of material life comes to us, we fold our hands and we say, thank you, Krishna. Thank you for showing me the naked face of the reality of my existence in this world. And apunar bhavadarshanam. And if we do that, no more birth and death. So what is the meaning to obstacle? Obstacle is also Krishna's mercy. Thank you very much. Anyone has any comment or question? Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna. Then thank you so much for enlightening us with wonderful class and practical points to follow. And I would like to ask, what if you said that one of the obstacle on the path of bhakti is Vaishnava aparadh?
What is what?
Vaishnava aparadh. So, and other thing you said that obstacles we have to see as the mercy of Krishna. So, how, if we have tendency of Vaishnava aparadh, how it is mercy? It is like my own problem.
We have free will. You speak your question in Hindi so these devotees can understand.
जैसे बता रहे थे कि हमारे भक्ति के पथ पर कुछ कठिनाई आती है. एक पहली कठिनाई है कि हम वैष्णव अपराध करने की जो भावना रहती है और उससे भक्ति में प्रगति नहीं होती. और दूसरी तरफ हम ये देखते हैं कि जो भी भक्ति के पथ पर कठिनाई है वो भगवान की कृपा होती है. ये कैसे कृपा है?
So Krishna gives us free will. We're not robots. If there's no free will, then we become Krishna conscious when Krishna makes us Krishna conscious. There's no bhakti without free will. So free will can be misused. We can offend a devotee. But the reaction we get from that is also instructive. Like Gopal Chapel, he offended Srivas Pandit. His body became infected with, he became very contrite, very repentant. That I've made such, because he got such a heavy reaction. So that can also be said to be positive. He learned a very good lesson, not to offend devotees. So everything is Krishna's mercy. We can say everything is Krishna's mercy. If you follow back far enough, you'll see how everything is Krishna's mercy. There's a story of Akbar and Birbal. Birbal accompanied Akbar everywhere he went. So one day, in battle, Akbar lost his thumb. And he thought, this is the greatest disaster in my life. I've lost my I'm a Khatri. How can I shoot arrow? Greatest disaster. Birbal said, no. Birbal said, everything is Krishna's mercy. Everything is Krishna's mercy. So they're out together again. And they captured the king. Dacoits, they're going to sacrifice him. They're raising the sword to cut off his head. They say, no thumb. Let him go, imperfect sacrifice. Now because Akbar had become very disturbed with Birbal, he locked him up. He became frustrated. Everything's Krishna's mercy. Oh, have some mercy. We're going to put you in jail. Have some mercy. So Akbar came back, his life saved because of losing his thumb. He said, actually, get him out of jail. He was right. Everything is Krishna's mercy. Losing my thumb was Krishna's mercy. So Birbal came before him and he apologized. Yes, everything is Krishna's mercy, but I have one question to ask you. How was it Krishna's mercy that you had to spend so much time in jail, suffering in jail? He said, oh Maharaj, it's like this. Wherever you go, I accompany you. And I have 2 thumbs. Certainly they would have sacrificed me instead of you. So in every circumstance, everything is Krishna's mercy. Even the bad things, what we consider bad, is Krishna's mercy. So in one sense we can say, no, it's not Krishna's mercy to offend a Vaishnava, but he'll never take your independence. You do as you want, but be prepared to accept the result. So to suffer on account of offending a Vaishnava is also Krishna's mercy, because he's rectifying our consciousness. He's correcting us by that suffering. As Gopal Chapala suffered, can you imagine your whole body being eaten alive by insects and leprosy, suffering intensely? Then you go to God, please remove the suffering. He said, no, suffer more. For millions of lives, suffer more for your offense. Only you have to approach my devotee. Very powerful lesson. So, do as you like, but be prepared to accept the result. But be careful to offend a Vaishnava. And rather do the opposite. Serve Vaishnavas. Krishna Bhakti Janma Hoy Mula Saru Sangha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the root cause of Krishna Bhakti. Where is Krishna Bhakti born? Krishna Bhakti Janma. Where is it born? Where is the root? Sadhu Sangha. Association of devotees. When the devotees were leaving Puri after Rath Yatra, they'd approach Shivananda Sen, and all the devotees would approach Mahaprabhu to give us some instruction. We're grihastas, have this complicated life. Please give us some instruction. He gave something very powerful. He said for grihastas 2 things, Vaishnav Seva and Nam Sankirtan. Hari Nam Sankirtan and Vaishnav Seva. And you'll be delivered by this simple instruction. Serve Vaishnavas and do Harinam Sankirtan. Hare Krishna. It's okay? Yes, Prabhuji?
How to increase the quality of seeing Krishna's mercy in every situation and problems, because it is very difficult to see.
How to see it? Jeev Jago, Gaur Chandra Bole. Wake up! Because there's nothing but Krishna. We see dualities. Say your question in Hindi, Prabhu.
हम जो प्रत्येक सिचुएशन होते हैं, प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं हमारे जीवन में, तो उसमें भगवान की मर्सी को कैसे देख सकते हैं?
So we have to wake up. Is there some other controller? There's some other controller outside of the purview of Krishna's control. Like in primitive religions like Christianity, they say there's God and there's Satan. And they're in opposition to each other. Sometimes Satan gets the upper hand, sometimes God gets the upper hand. No, Ishvara Parama, Krishna. There's one controller, and it's not you, it's not me, it's no one else but Krishna. So we should see that, have that vision that whatever comes to our life is given by Krishna for our rectification, to make us better devotees. Nothing but Krishna. Is there some other energy? Maya is Mayadakshena Prakriti, that's also Krishna's energy. Like shadow is also a product of form. It doesn't exist independent. This material world is shadow, reflection, pratibimba. But where does it come from? From form, from reality. So Krishna is the source of the shadow, and he's the source of the form also. Krishna is the source of everything. There is no other source. Idam hi vishvam bhagavan evetur. The whole creation is nothing but Krishna. We see Maya, but from Krishna's point of view, everything is Krishna. Sun and sunlight. What is sunlight? Nothing but sun. What is sun? Nothing but sunlight. Everything is Krishna's mercy, if we have eyes to see it. And that takes practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. You have another question, Prabhu?
Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like devotees are working together, so sometimes it happens that one devotee is not happy. Like we are performing our services and we are doing together, but it may happen that one devotee is not happy. So is it also an offense?
Is it what?
Is it also an offense like one devotee is not happy? Like it may happen that devotees are working together, so one devotee is not happy. You do not know.
Can you speak your question in Hindi?
ऐसा हो सकता है कि जब हम सेवाएं कर रहे होते हैं तो कुछ भक्त हो सकता है कि प्रसन्न ना हो, हमें पता नहीं चलता, लेकिन क्या ये अपराध है?
It's not your offense that if someone becomes unhappy unless you do something to make him unhappy. You understand? If you create unhappiness in a devotee's life by your activity or your words, by your activities, there's a whole hierarchy of offense to devotee. From killing a devotee, physically assaulting a devotee, criticizing a devotee, envy of devotee, even not feeling happy when you see a devotee is considered to be an offense. So if you do something to make that devotee unhappy, you're implicated in Vaishnava aparadha. But if you're just doing service together and he's unhappy, you can't be responsible for be responsible for your mind. You can't be responsible for the other devotee's mind. You understand? If you do something, and you know what you're doing, everyone knows what they're doing. We know internally what is our motive. We may show something else to society, but we know ourselves more than anyone else, more than your mother knows you, more than your father, your friend, your wife. You know yourself. You're the greatest authority on yourself. You know yourself more than anyone else. So you know if you have some animosity, some negative feeling towards a devotee, and if you do, this is offense. If you don't, you're not implicated. But if that devotee thinks he's been offended by you, take humble position. Humble position is always safe. Not abhiman, ahankar, I am great and you are small. Amani namana dena kirtaniya sadahari. This is a safe position. So if someone thinks you've done something, fold your hands, Prabhu. If I've done anything to disturb you, you please forgive me. Offend your lotus feet, you please forgive me. And mean it. This is the other thing. If you've offended the devotee, and you just go in an offhanded way, oh Prabhu, I'm sorry, I think I disturbed you, please forgive me. No, you have to mean it. You have to bow down and beg forgiveness. I'm a rascal, I'm a fool, I'm completely under the control of the modes of material nature, and I've offended you, please forgive me. And the devotee has to forgive you. If he doesn't, then he's a rascal. If someone comes to you with all humility and begs forgiveness, and if he doesn't forgive you out of ahankar and abhiman, out of pride, then he's a rascal. Then he becomes implicated because you've taken humble position. You want to become free from offense. You want to re-establish friendship with this person. And if he's hard-hearted, then this is his problem. But in every situation, the common denominator is to be humble. Chanadapi sunechena. Okay, Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
कल भी क्लास होगा, सब भक्तों का इससे निवेदन है कि कल भी क्लास में आए, कल सुबह 8 बजे से 9 बजे तक इस तरह से आगे श्रृंखला में क्लास होगा। हरे कृष्ण। तो प्रभु जी बहुत सुंदर क्लास दिया प्रभु जी, गिवन वेरी नाइस क्लास. वी अगेन थैंक प्रभु जी फॉर द सच वंडरफुल नाइस insight given to us. Hare Krishna.